Hello, welcome to Raising Up Sons, where we're trying to become better dads so our sons can become better men. LG, how you
What's
doing
going on,
today,
buddy?
buddy?
I'm doing good, man. It is about 100 degrees in Indiana, and so I'm trying to not melt every day, but also trying to be outside. It's summertime and swimming pools. Trying to stay cool that way. So our boys, they love to be in the water. And yeah, what about is it hot in Colorado?
It is hot in Colorado, but man, I love the hot weather. I love the heat, love the humidity. This is my time to thrive. So anytime we can be outside, I'm loving it. We went to the water park the other day to cool off, and so when it comes to like water parks and things like that, I know your wife Michaela
Oh
is a
yeah,
go getter. Are
for
you a
sure.
go getter when it comes to the scary slides and stuff, or what?
Oh man, I'm all about it. I love roller coasters. I love the theme park stuff. And we love like so here, and we have one of the best water parks in the world. It's Holiday World, man. Splash and Safari. They got everything. They got the water coasters, the whole deal, the slides and wave pools, and my boys cannot get enough of it. So that's one of our favorite summer things. We get the passes, and we try to get after it at Holiday World.
I love it, man. Ours is Water World. And so we went there. My favorite thing is the Lazy Boy River.
Oh, it's the
Hanging
best.
out in there forever. But yeah, we did this thing as a whole family, you know. It's a big yellow inner tube. We're all, crowding around in there. Everybody's like, "You're going to go so fast because, I'm so big." Turns out we went super slow because my whole body too too much friction
Just
against the
anchoring
slide, I
down the whole
guess. Oh
family
yeah.
is.
Yeah. So Alison was happy about that.
Yeah,
Going
of
a little
course she
bit
is.
slow.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you do nothing quick. It doesn't surprise me. It's all right.
No, no way,
But you
man.
get it done. That's what's important. You always get it done. Well,
All
yeah. Well,
right.
hey, I know everybody's trying to stay cool this summer. But speaking of that, we are talking a little bit about how to keep your cool today as we dive into the topic of discipline, how to discipline your kids, why it's important, and why is it so stinking hard, man. We got a lot to talk about
Disciplining your kids, I feel like, is the worst because I'm such a softie. I just want my kids to love me and like we're gonna hug all the time, spend all the time together. And so disciplining for me is really hard. How was
Yeah,
it
and
for
it's
you?
I mean, I was saying, man, everybody wants to be liked,
Yeah,
especially by your kids. Like everyone wants your
yeah,
kids to like you, and the truth is, man, you can't discipline someone you love without it hurting you too.
yep,
Because I do want to see them happy, like I want to see them thrive, and there's so much that goes into that, but that's what we're going to talk about today. And so we know it's difficult; nobody really enjoys doing it, but this is far too important for us to overlook or to not be intentional.
yep.
And so, yeah, we want to get into it today.
Well, hey, before we get into anything, do you have any funny um, times when like you were growing up about being disciplined from your parents or anything like that? I know I've got
Man,
one, but I want
you
to hear
got
one
one?
from you too.
You go, you go. You put me on
All
the
right, I'll
spot.
go first. So I'm thinking. So growing up, my mom had one of those paddleball games with the ball attached to the string. She ripped off the string and the ball. She put her hand on there, traced her hand, and wrote on there "Mom's helping hand." And so anytime my sister and we got into trouble, she was gonna spank us with that paddle. Until one day I got old. I got tall enough where I could reach the top of the fridge,
It's
and I
like
grabbed
seven,
it.
eight.
Yeah, probably five. Where I grabbed it and I threw it into the trash can, and she never found it. And it was just like a few years ago when I told her that story. She's like, "What? That was you?"
Mom's helping hand was no more.
No way,
Um,
man.
Man, I don't know. Like I listen, I think back about being disciplined as a kid, and none of it sounded very funny. Like I don't have any stories. It was, dad getting after me or mom, either one. It was
Or
not
stories
fun.
about where, like I remember my parents for one time they were disciplining me, and they sound like crazy parents, but they weren't. Where they took my Halloween candy, I did something bad, they threw it all in the trash can, and then they went back in after it late at night. You hear stories similar to this, where they're picking out all the good
Got
ones.
all the good stuff back out of there. Yeah, we for sure lost stuff like candy and those sort of things, and no doubt they were probably eating it behind our backs. Wouldn't say that I've been guilty of that myself sometimes with our own kids.
All right, so when it comes to discipline, and it comes to we have to discipline our kids. We got to discipline our sons, but why? why do we have to do this thing that is so hard?
Yeah, man. I think, ultimately in all of this, as Christians and believers, like we want to look at the way that God has disciplined us. And he did it because he loved us way too much, right? To let our relationship get broken. I think that's where most of discipline comes from is like, listen, what you're doing isn't good for you. It's not good for your relationship with me or with other people or your relationship with God. And so when you
Mm,
break that or do something that damages that, I have to correct it. That's exactly like Hebrews 12:6 says the Lord disciplines the one that he loves.
yeah.
And, there's more and more verses we can get into. And we'll probably share some here in a little bit, but that's ultimately what it comes down to is like, listen, I love you way too much to allow you to go down this path. So there has to be a correction that goes into that.
Yeah, that is so good. The Hebrews 12:6, man, I think that's like the perfect verse when it comes to it because all discipline has to come from love because the ultimate goal is we want our sons to look more and more like Jesus every single day. And so sometimes in order to do that, man, we got to discipline when they're acting crazy. Or and we'll talk about what that looks like. All right, LG. One of the things you said earlier when we were preparing for this is you said God disciplines us no matter the cost to Himself.
Mhm.
Talk us through what you meant by that because I think that is good stuff right there.
Yeah, because like, listen, the way that God disciplines us, like, it's never to punish us. It's never to pay us back for like the thing that you messed up or did wrong. It's to bring us back to Him, to bring us closer to Him, and to form us into people that are more like Jesus. And so you think about like throughout the Bible, like when we've messed things up, like which is it's been the whole cycle of the Bible, right? You got creation, then the fall, we mess things up, and then restoration, which is what Jesus came to do, and then fully made perfect. Like that's the end goal where God's going. Creation, fall, restoration. Like that's it. And then so when we mess up ourselves, like God's ultimately going to love us back into that relationship. It means He
Mm,
takes it all on. He's the one that has to suffer for it, and the suffering servant of Jesus. Like that's the whole role that He plays. And that's like the redemption story of humanity. It's God suffering in order to love us back to Himself. And so even in discipline, even in when God gives us, it's not a list of rules you have to follow. It's ways to be like to live life the way that He designed it because He wants to be close to you. He wants to love you. He wants to be in a relationship. And so that ultimately all comes back on Him.
and when thinking about that, and everything that He took on for us, then I think like when I became a father, that was like the first time when I realized, oh my gosh, like I love this boy, like more, more than anybody else. And so, but I love him so much that I can't just let him go off and do whatever the heck he wants. And
Mm-hmm.
so it all has to be formation based and never behavior based. Because it's never like, oh my gosh, don't embarrass me in public. You better you better act right. Do
But
you
man,
do you
isn't
have
that
any
like? I mean, so often I think as dads though, that's like where it comes from. Of like, whether we're at church or at Walmart or Kroger, wherever, like we're out in public, and there's a meltdown or you did something dumb, and I'm like, listen, you're making
Mhm.
me look like a bad dad, like, and so I want your behavior to be like at this level, and right now it's down here.
Yeah.
But that's never a healthy response because this
Mm-mm.
isn't about me, right? It's not about how I look as a dad. Like this one's always about for their good and for what's forming them into the person that ultimately they want to be.
Yeah, because ultimately everything we do, we have to try and get them closer to Jesus, closer in relationship with him, helping them understand who Jesus is, all that stuff. And
Right.
so yeah,
So
and so it's always formation based.
yeah, because I think when it comes to behavior based, like if it's just about their behavior, what I find myself doing is that I'm constantly correcting, like
Yep.
every little thing, nitpicking, like it's always that. And you can just get caught in that cycle to where it feels like, man, I've been negative and on you all day long. And they've got to feel that because we feel
Yep.
that. When it's formation based, it looks a little bit different. So it's like we're not nitpicking on every single thing. We have to be pretty clear on like, when are you going to step in? So,
Yep.
when is the time to discipline? And so for you and Allison, like, you guys have walked through this a little bit. Like, how do you decide that? And what are the things you kind of look for? Like, when do you discipline your kids?
Yeah, so I think for us, the biggest thing when it comes to discipline that we crack down on the most is always dishonesty. So it's always lying.
Hmm.
If we find out that the boys, have told a lie, or we find out that, they're lying to us in the moment, like that's the biggest thing that we're cracking down on. And so what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's for sure on the lying stuff. I mean, I think that's one of the most damaging things you can do. And that's what we try to talk about is like anything you do that damages a relationship. So whoever that's involved with, like if it's something with, them and us as parents or them as siblings or even them with their friends, and ultimately always between them and God, like those
Mm-hmm.
relationships are so important. So yeah, when you're dishonest, it breaks that relationship. And when
Mm-hmm.
you're disrespectful, it damages and hurts that relationship. And so we try to talk about that a lot. And those are the two main things. I think there's a ton that can fall in those two categories, right? Like you've
Yep.
been disrespectful or dishonest about something, like that covers a lot of bases. And so we tell them,
Yep.
like, hey, when you did this, like you hurt our relationship and we love you way too much. Like our relationship is way too important
Mm-hmm.
for us to allow that to happen. So those are the moments we try to step in and do discipline. And also, I think like just anytime they're being unsafe. So like,
Yep.
when you're doing something that could hurt you or someone else,
Running into
um,
the road, jumping in front of traffic, things like
right.
that.
And those are the moments like where we want to like we always say like it's okay to yell when that's happening.
Yep.
Like when someone's being unsafe, like dad's gonna raise his voice, mom's gonna raise her voice, and if you see it, you should raise your voice because we want to
Mm-hmm.
make everyone aware in the moment. And yeah, we try to make that our only loud moments. Um, but yeah, and those fall within like disrespect. You're disrespecting yourself, like if you're getting hurt and other
Yep.
people. And so yeah, those are kind of the main things that we look for.
Yep, that's good. And I think as they get older, the dishonesty one is the one that, we're trying to crack down on the most. And so we
Hmm.
haven't had to deal with it much, probably because it's one of those things where we try and correct right away. But you're right. It's like you see so many examples in scripture where people are dishonest
Hmm.
and just the discipline that comes with that. Because, dishonesty cannot be tolerated,
No.
with kids or with relationships or anything like that. It has to be honesty. And sometimes honesty can hurt.
Oh yeah.
So,
Well, and we tell our boys like it's so important that like oftentimes, especially like when they're younger, it's like, hey, if you're honest with me, like I don't know exactly what happened or the situation or somebody's tattling
mhm,
on someone else, like whatever it is, it's like, hey, if you're honest with me, this is gonna go way smooth. Like there won't be as much of a consequence.
oh
Like
yeah,
that, it's like that makes this all way easier because I know that's the thing that they're so afraid of. Like
yep,
if you find out about this, I'm be in so much trouble. And it's like, well, if you're honest with me though, like there's grace for so much of this to cover it, if not
oh
all of
yeah,
it, right? Like that's the most important. Sometimes that's it. It's like, hey, if you're honest with me, we can just talk about it and move on. But if
oh yeah.
not, then I find out otherwise, then there has to be a consequence.
That's right, man.
Um, so yeah, as we kind of get it, so when you start to get into the consequences and the pathway for all this, like how do you discipline your kids? Like what does that look like?
Yeah, so the thing that I like to look at is when it comes to the different ages of just kind of like the timing by ages that we talked
Hmm.
about earlier. And so the discipline years, ages 0 to 5, that's when there's immediate correction, there's clear boundaries. This I think is very black and white. It's like we know what they're not supposed to be doing, we
Right.
know what they should be doing, we can respond
It's like my
immediately.
whole world right now. We're living in that, toddler world where you just, you have to correct immediately. You have to catch it in the moment in order for them to understand and, yeah, start learning
Yeah.
that way.
It's a lot more tiring physically than it is mentally, probably.
Sometimes. But yeah, you get those discipline years. And then you have, like, beyond that, that 6 to like 12 range, give or
Mhm.
take, somewhere in there, is the training years, right? And that's
Yep.
where, like, in all of these, like, you're getting a little more hands off. You're still very involved, but like, you're training them up in the ways of the Lord. And so that means a lot of like natural, logical consequences. Like, you did this, so this has to happen, right? You want to
Yep.
teach them. It's repetitive over and over and over again, but they're learning at that point. They're starting to catch
Yep.
on. They know what the rules are, the routines. And so that's the training gears in that. And then after
Yep.
that, you get the coaching gears.
Yeah, this is the one that I'm in right now. So 12 to 18. So it's all about conversations, responsibility, reflective discipline. And so it's like this one is a hard one because the older your kids get, the smarter they get. And and so then it's like having actual conversations with a grown human that is 14 years old. You're talking to a teenager about
Which is
their
terrifying because
actions.
listen,
It's
at
insane.
4.5, 5, they're already like a little lawyer. Like they know how to
Yeah,
like manipulate and ask questions and like, well, but
yeah,
you said this before. Like, why has it changed now? Like, I can't imagine by the time they're
Oh,
teenagers what that's going to be like.
it's tough, especially when you have a horrible memory like I do. And so
Mhm.
they're bringing up things from past conversations, and I'm like, oh my gosh, did I actually say that? Or is he lying right now? Does he need to be disciplined?
But there's also a lot of fun in those years, like in all of these. Like there's,
Yeah.
in those years, you're also like, it is like a coach on the sideline of like, you get to be
Yep.
there. Like, here's the play. You're telling them like, here's what you do to succeed, and kind of calling that out and kind of watching and hoping and celebrating with them, like all the wins. Like you get all of that, and hopefully that
Yep.
leads you up to that final piece, like that, the adult years, right? 18
Hmm.
plus, hopefully adult years at that point, but where you're hopefully a friend at that point. Those are the friendship years where
Yep.
you get to really just cheer them on, be there for them. At that point, you're so hands off. Like they're coming to you for stuff, hopefully more than you're having to go to them about things. And that's what a fun season that I can't wait to experience someday.
Yeah. And this is so true. Even let's say you're not a follower of Jesus, like you're not a Christian. Like these are just timings that things happen just naturally that
Hmm.
everybody's hoping for. Everybody wants to be friends with their kids, after the age of 18 when they leave the house. And so in order to get there, in order to help them be, the human that you want them to be and grow up to be, like you have to go through these natural formations, these natural years to do that. So when it comes to how to discipline, the biggest thing right now that we have discovered with my boys, they're 11 and then about to be 14, is just the why. Like,
Mm.
and it's having that conversation with them. What's like, all right, you did this, which, and then we talk through what happened, why that wasn't, a bad decision. I'm not going to go into any examples, because I don't want to embarrass the boys. But it's like, you did
Mhm.
this. And so now, like, we're going to have to talk about it. And there has to be a punishment because I love you too much to let this slide. And
Yeah.
so that's a
And that's
lot of
true
where
for
we're
so
going
much of
right
life,
now.
right? Like knowing the
Hmm.
why behind it, like you start to understand that and what that leads to. And yeah, I think that's a huge piece. And then for us too, it's like you follow that up with like consistency.
Hmm.
That's been a big one for us of like when we have, made a big deal about this at one point and then you let it go the next time and they learn from that. Like it has to be consistency in this and self-control. That's
Yep.
a big part of it too, which I think anytime your emotions get too involved, and they are in this, like, listen, man, those little people can get under your skin and drive you crazy. And, you get to a point in parenting. I mean, listen, if you're listening to this, you've been there of like when you get to the end of your like patience and like you have to take a minute and pause so that you can, handle this effectively and not over the top. Like you can't be
Oh
led
yeah.
by emotions in this.
Yeah. Like I shared one time when I messed up and my kid was little. He wasn't even in school yet, but he was faster than I was. And he knew I was mad at him in the car. And I think I told this story earlier, but he unbuckled himself from the car seat, jumped out of the car, and then just took off running because he knew he was going to be punished. And I couldn't catch him. He was running around the pond. I'm running around the pond. So it was hilarious. But yeah, that was a time when it was probably a little bit embarrassing. The other thing that I like thinking through that has also been hard for me is different kids needing different types of discipline. And
Hmm.
so it is not a one size fits all. Like I can say, one thing to Eli, just like pretty straightforward, pretty blunt. But then Jack, like I could tell him in the softest way, but it's gonna hit him like a hammer.
Crushes.
Yeah, it just crushes
Hmm.
them. So what about your boys?
Oh yeah, man. I mean, we got one. Ethan. I think his like he's just a much more emotional. Like he feels big, and
Mhm.
so like he gets the feeling like when he loves, it's a lot of love. When he's angry, it's a lot of anger. So he rides that roller coaster a lot. And
Yeah.
so with him, it's like you have to be very like I can't come at him too strong. Like
Mhm.
words land heavy on him, as to where with my young one Kai, he's a lot more stubborn, and
Yeah.
so he tries to bottle things up a little bit and you get on him and he just wants to like stone cold face man, like he's not letting you see any of it penetrate. And so it takes a little bit more to like to get
A little
through to
bit
him.
more finesse.
A little bit more finesse, but yeah, they're just different. And that's true, like most kids, most families I know, like they have those dynamics, that the
Mhm.
way you do one, like there's consistently involved, like we all have the same rules, but the way that like that's followed through on can look different in a lot of different
Yep.
ways. I like that.
Yep.
And that's why, getting with all this, like I think there's some keys to discipline that are important to remember. So we're chatting about this, and one of these we already mentioned, but is that like that pause element, right?
Yep.
That before I go to talk to him, or if it's like someone's losing, they got to go to their room. Before
Yep.
I go and knock on that door, before I go in, I've got to get myself into a good place. So whether that's
Mm-hmm.
taking a few deep breaths, right? Taking a minute to
Mm-hmm.
get calm, maybe praying real quick before you go up there, like God, give me
Mm-hmm.
wisdom and like, to navigate this well. But pause and make sure you're ready to walk in that
Oh
room,
yeah.
because you don't want to go in there angry or lose. You've got to be in control. And then
Mm-hmm.
the second one is when you do get to those consequences. So
Yep.
yeah, some of those are dictated by the years that they're in, right? Like you talked about that earlier.
Oh
And
yeah.
so, what you disciplined your boys like when they were 0 to 5 probably looks different than you do in these years, right?
Yep. Yep. And I think the pausing is still the same. I think no matter how old they are. And so sometimes I'll send them to the room and they'll be in there for 2 minutes, or sometimes they'll be in there for 20 until I can go in there,
Yeah.
sit down with them, and then tell them how much I love them, all that stuff. But yeah, the consequences now. Technology is a big one. Screen time
Mm.
with their friends, watching YouTube, all those things. Like if I take those things away, man, they're acting right and tight. So what about
Hitting
some
where it hurts.
consequences for you? What are some things right now with your boys' ages?
Yeah, it's similar, man. It's removing like some of these like things that they love. And so it's like whether it's a toy they're really into right now, they've
Hmm.
got this little like car game they love to play. And so, when they fight over that or someone's misbehaving, it's like, hey, we may have to take this away for a little bit.
Yep.
And that really like that's what sends the message into them. And timeout's still a big one. Like that we just put our kids about like, hey, you gotta take a minute, man. You gotta go sit down and like not gonna have any like whether it's movie time or show time tonight. Like we take those things away. But yeah, it's taking away those things that are valuable to them.
Hmm.
And putting those like you have to earn those right. Those are not a something that's a privilege, right? That's the word I'm looking for. Those
Yeah.
things are a privilege, not a right, and so we can take them away.
One of the things that we talked about was a creative consequence of like, hey, you deserve to be punished right now, but instead, I'm going to show you grace. I'm going to show you undeserved
Yeah.
favor, and we're going to take you out for ice cream. Now, I've heard of this being done.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have done it once. Have you done it?
We have done this. We have done it. We not a ton, and
Yeah.
I tell you because I think like you can do that more often.
Mm-hmm.
The older and the more your kids get to those understanding ages,
Yep.
and so I think when you get to like that 6 to 12, maybe in those
Mm-hmm.
areas, like they already know what they did was wrong.
Yeah.
I think early on you're still teaching them that like to know right and wrong a little bit, and they're
Yep.
starting to get it. But like you've got to know like what you did was wrong and why it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
At a certain age, like they already know that and they're already
Yep.
feeling it. And I don't want my kids to feel shamed ever. So it's like,
Right.
I'm not trying to add more shame on this. If you
Yep.
already know and you already learned the lesson, we don't need to punish every single thing harshly. Like sometimes it's for them to feel the grace of it. It's just like, you messed up. You know
Yep.
what happened and the damage that did. Like, there's going to be grace for this right now.
Yep. Yeah, that's
Um,
good. Yeah, and so there's that understanding. We want them to feel conviction, but not shame. And then
mhm.
next we've got confession. And so why is it a big deal for kids to understand confession with
Well, not just for
this?
kids, man. I think it's a huge deal for like just believers, for adults
Yep.
of all ages, to understand confession. And honestly, I
Yep.
think this is something that we don't do very well anymore, even in church. That often confession is something like people just do privately. It's just you between you and God, and you leave everyone else out of it. And I think
Hmm.
biblically, like when you look at the early church, confession to other people, specifically the ones that are like involved in whatever was
Hmm.
wrong or whatever sin took place, like I think confession is huge in order to make things right. So to get to the
Yep.
reconciliation part, which is like the next thing, there has to be that confession of just you verbalizing, like, listen, I know that what I did was wrong.
Hmm.
There's, I need to apologize for that. I need to own like this mistake. It's, repentance involved in that of like, I'm not going to do that again. And then you start to move to reconciliation, which, we talk with our boys, like, confession, like you can say, I'm sorry, but reconciliation is where like you're making it right with your actions, not just your
Hmm.
words. And
Yep.
so I think that's huge at the end. That's the ultimate goal of this. Like you want to get to that reconciliation place.
Yep. And the reconciliation, when it comes to me personally and my boys, that is one thing that I struggle with sometimes too. But it's like I want immediate like gratification. I
Mhm.
want to hug my son, and like I do, but and make sure that like we're laughing and things. But sometimes I can try and rush it because
Mm,
I know that they're angry with me. They're angry at the consequence, or whatever it is.
right.
And but they also understand that, hey, I'm doing this out of love. I'm doing this, for X, Y, and Z. But also, there has to be a consequence. And so after I deliver that, then I expect them to be like, Dad, thank you for disciplining me. I love you so much. Thank you
Right.
for doing this to me and making me closer to Jesus and more like him every day. And
Wouldn't that
that's
be
not what I
wonderful?
get. That
No,
would
man.
be amazing.
That'd be amazing. And yeah, and I think there is like you have to give space to that. Like it's okay
Hmm.
for them to not enjoy being like disciplined. It's okay for them like if you've been
Hmm.
given a punishment of like, hey, Jack or Eli did this and now you've got to mow the grass.
Yep.
Well, maybe they're not going to enjoy that right then.
Yep.
And so but we do, especially when they're like, at all ages, I'm sure, but like you want your kid to come and give you the hug and love you and
Oh
understand that it's
yeah.
all better. But that's to make you feel better. That's not necessarily
Hmm.
what they need in that moment. Like it
Yep.
needs to get there, but I think it's important that we give them space of like, and it might take you 5 minutes, an hour,
Yeah.
2 hours, like maybe not until later tonight or
Yep.
the next morning. Like, but it's okay to do that.
Hmm.
And then to keep coming back to it though, of
Yep.
like, I think you check in of like, I'm gonna give you some space, but then I'm coming back like, hey,
Yep.
how are we feeling? We doing all right? Do you understand this? And little by
Yeah.
little, like getting into that place where you can be reconciled and finally get that
Yeah.
hug that you're looking for.
Oh yeah. And
Yeah.
there's got to be and that's good. There's got to be those check-in moments because you've got those strong-willed kids that are like, I'm never gonna show my parents another smile or give them another hug. And
Hmm.
so, but it's super important to keep going back, checking in on them, making sure that they know you, that you're there for them, that you love them, all these things, and that the consequence and the discipline comes from love. So, talking through like the keys, here's different ways of discipline. What are some examples of what hasn't worked when it comes to discipline? Because I know they're
Oh
out
man,
there.
there's a ton of stuff out there that hasn't worked. The first one that comes to mind for me, and we may have even mentioned this before, but like when it comes to any kind of discipline, like sarcasm never works.
Hmm.
And I think of that first because I am guilty of that so often.
Oh yeah, we're a very
Sarcasm,
sarcastic family, both the Lances and the Morans.
yes, we can be. That is a natural language, and I think it's funny. And here's the thing: it is funny when it's between peers. It's funny
Uh
when it's
huh.
between like you and me as friends. Like we
Yeah.
can be sarcastic with each other because the dynamic's different. But
Yep.
when I'm sarcastic with my kids, it's not the same dynamic, and our
No.
words, it's just not the same. And so those land a lot heavier on them. When we say things, they hurt a lot more, and they stick with you for a lot longer. And so
Yep.
I can make fun of you or say something sarcastic and you laugh and roll it off. As to where with your kids,
Hmm.
man, you might say something like that or make fun of something they did or, make a comment about like, wow, like, I thought that was going to work at first too. I can't believe that fell all over the kitchen.
What have we learned?
Right.
Just different comments like that. They're so much fun to say,
Right.
but they do more destruction than
Oh
they
man,
do
but that
help.
like they're fun to say and we laugh about it. And I've even found like your kid may even laugh about it, but they remember, man,
Oh yeah.
that sticks in their heart and they hang
Hmm.
on to that. And it's, whatever you're trying to do to form them into a person, like, that's deforming.
Hmm.
It's doing damage to the person that you want them to be. And so
Yep.
I found that sarcasm is one big one for us that doesn't work. And the other one that we did early on, and I think, so many parents out there, maybe this works for you. And so take it with a grain of salt. But we decided that the whole counting to three, like, hey, I need you to do this. And you didn't listen. It's like, hey, I'm on 1, 2. And there is something like that clicks in that third, like they, usually respond. But we made a shift like a couple years back that we're like, no, we're not doing the counting to three
Hmm.
because you're teaching them not to listen the first time.
Yep.
And I want them to learn first time listening. And so rather than counting, sometimes when they don't do it, we remind them like, hey, you heard me. I need first time listening. And so we've tried to do that because the counting to three is just like guaranteeing that they don't do anything the first time you ask them. And so we're getting there more and more on that first time listening stuff. Are there any other ones for you guys?
Oh yeah. Well, one, like I am for sure guilty of all those. The other ones that I'm guilty of empty threats, not
Uh-huh.
following through. I'm like, hey, if you do if you do this, if you keep on, screwing around, I'm gonna take away PlayStation or whatever it is. Or like I'll make an empty threat of like, you're not coming in your room, like the whole day or whatever it is. Just saying something crazy.
Uh-huh.
Like
Or you paint
whatever
yourself
it
into a
is.
corner, man. That you make a
Oh yeah.
threat, and even if you're like, I mean, we try to stick to our guns. We've all made empty threats, but like I try to of like, man, if you don't finish eating, dinner tonight, like we're gonna sit here until bedtime.
Oh
And I'm
yeah.
sitting there, I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to sit here with him till bedtime. Like,
Has that
I'm
ever
gonna be.
happened to you? It happened to me once with
It has
Jack.
happened to us. Yeah, we've been down that road, and I remember, like, man, I wish that I had not said that. I should have just,
Yep.
had something else ready to go. But so those you got to be willing to follow through on those things and be a person of your word because
Yep.
honesty is so important, right?
Oh yeah. That's a big one. Last one I got is disciplining inconsistently.
Mm.
And so that way it's like the boys know what to expect.
Yeah, because
It's
you
like
mean like, what do you mean by that? Disciplining inconsistently, like what's an example of that?
so an example of that would be if they treat Allison with disrespect. And the only reason I'm saying this is because it happened recently where it's like they were treating her disrespectfully and I jumped all over them. And then they were disrespecting her again and I let it slide that time because they were being a little bit sarcastic and funny. And then I had to go back later on after Allison was like, "Hey, you know what they were doing there." So it's like just making sure that we're on top of those things.
It can't be okay sometimes and not
Right.
like others. You got to be consistent
Yep.
in those things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
for
it's good,
sure.
man. Hey, I'm sure, so much more that we could talk about, and I would love to hear from some of y'all out there. But the main thing, like, this is too important not to do. Every single kid,
Mhm.
every single person, like, we all need discipline in our lives, and the goal is to get them to a point as an adult where they're practicing disciplines themselves. But in the meantime, it's our job as parents, our job as dads, to be the ones that are walking them down this and that are helping
Yeah.
to discipline them and everything. Because I mean, what we see, I mean, it's the statistics and stuff are, I mean, overwhelming. The kids with consistent, loving discipline,
Mhm.
they have higher emotional intelligence. It means like
Yep.
they do better with their peers. They have better relationships. They function better on the playground and at school and later on at work and in life. Like this, like discipline now in the early years has so many benefits down the road. And that's what
Yep.
most of this comes down to. And we know this from our own lives, right? When I'm disciplined in the moment, it pays off in the future. It's true financially, physically, like spiritually, like all these different ways. And it's so true for our kids right now. And also, there's a couple more. Would you have, Taylor?
Last thing I have is when it comes to mom and dad together, disciplining is just joint discipline,
Ah,
doing that together.
man,
And
I'm
so
so
that
glad you
way,
brought that one up.
and so
Seriously,
that
too
way,
important to skip over.
it's like man, mom if our boys know that mom is going to be, the hard disciplinarian and dad is a softie or vice versa. It's like we can't have one kid asking mom for one thing and she says no, then they go to dad and the dad says yes. Is this something you've experienced?
Oh, dude, it's everybody's experienced it. They come to one of you and get the answer they don't want, so they immediately go to the other one. And man, you just gotta be a united front in all
Mhm.
of this. Like, you and your wife, you've got to agree on and talk about, like, the way that you want to discipline your kids and what's most important. What are your values? How are you going to, enact this? Um, all those things are so important, and it can't be like one or the other. Like you can't be good cop while she's bad cop, or vice
Mhm.
versa. Like dad's always the one that has to, be the enforcer. I think it has to be both. It's so
Mhm.
important.
Yeah.
And yeah, again, you look at Barna, Pew Research, and all that stuff. Um, the whole house is so much healthier, and relationships are
Mhm.
better when it's done like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and there's a security too for the kids because they know mom and dad are a united front, and there's comfort in that, knowing even though like I'm gonna be disciplined, they know mom and dad are in it together, and
Mm,
mom and dad are a united front with that. So
yeah. Well, hey,
yeah,
we'd love again to hear from you guys that are out there. And so let me know, what are the ways that you guys are disciplining your kids? Why do you do it? How do you do it? Maybe I can steal some creative ideas out there that'd be
yeah, we
helpful.
need more ideas.
But this is far too important not to do, right?
Yeah, and discipline is one of those things where it's like we know we're gonna lose sleep over it. We're gonna shed some tears. We're gonna struggle with conversations with our kids. But in the end, like it is worth it. It is worth it because we're helping them to become like Jesus, and it is too important to ignore.
Thank you all so much for listening in with us as we talk about these things. We'd love to hear from you. So you can give us a follow on Instagram at Raising Up Sons and get in the comments there and on YouTube as well. You can find us. And we'd love to hear from you there. Put them in the comments, like and follow, all that fun stuff. And yeah, man, this is too important for us not to do.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Keep being big daddies out there.